dear listeners, to another episode of A Nice Cup of History. Today, we wanted to bring you something special that I am quite excited about, the story of Alfred the Great.
We will be telling the life and achievements of this intriguing historical figure, as well as busting some of the myths that have arisen in recent centuries about him. We've already covered him in some extent, relating to one of the most popular myths about him in our recently released second book, Strange Ways to Die in the Dark Ages, where you can find it in all bookstores, online and in shops.
Nice.
However, this will be a more in-depth look into the man behind the many myths.
And, as ever, we'll be ending today's show with a ridiculous death, and maybe even throw in a random fact in there somewhere.
So, kickstart the navy, summon the local fjord, keep an eye on those cakes, and let's get historical.
So before we dive in, there are a couple of important political and social structures at the time that it might be important for you to know about in order for things to make sense. Following the withdrawal of Rome from Britain in between 410 to 450 CE, Germanic groups called the Angles, the Jutes and the Saxons began to migrate across the North Sea and gradually conquered England. They came from the region of Germany, Denmark and Jutland, originally invited across as mercenaries that then began to settle, sometimes conquer and integrate.
They initially turned England fully to a new form of paganism, following the partial conversion to Christianity under Roman rule in the 3rd century CE, though eventually Christian missionaries would again convert the country bit by bit, though the gods would leave their mark in the English names for the days of the week. Twy meaning Tuesday, Woden, Wednesday, Thornor, Thursday, and Frigg, Friday.
Eventually, the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms began to appear by around the 6th century, eventually forming what would later become known by historians as the Anglo-Saxon Heptarchy, consisting of 7 kingdoms all vying for dominance, being East Anglia, Essex, Kent, Mercia, Northumbria, Sussex and Wessex.
Carries random fact.
Perfect moment for a random fact. Very beautifully done, Lady.
Thank you.
The names of the kingdoms weren't random. Northumbria means the people north of the Humber, which is the river marking the southern border of that region. Mercia means the border people, as they had borders all round with other kingdoms, but more specifically a frontier border with Wales. Wales itself comes from Wales, which was a Roman name meaning foreigners, to mark them as not Roman. Essex, Wessex, Sussex and Middlesex means the locations of the Saxon people, like East Saxon Kingdom, West Saxon Kingdom, so on. East Anglia was the eastern kingdom of the Angles. And Kent, however, is cool because it kept its old Celtic Brythonic name, but with a Germanic twist. It used to be called Cantium and the home of the Cantiaci tribe, meaning the corner land or the coastal land. And if you look at where Kent is on a map, it's pretty aptly named. Kent was also where the first Christian missionaries in this period landed in 597 CE and had strong trade routes, giving it a great financial advantage.
Carries random fact. Beautiful. Thanks. Power dynamics were constantly shifting across the Heptarchy. The kingdoms were rising and falling, though for a large chunk of the 7th and 8th centuries, the kingdom of Mercia dominated due to its resources, fertile land and transport links with the rivers Severn, Trent, Avon and
tributaries.
That's a really fun word.
Yeah, they're like little rivers that go into the big ones.
Oh, I didn't know that's what they were called. I thought it was just little rivers went into the big ones.
Yeah.
Of the Thames. In London.
It is Wessex where we focus today, but it is good to know about the other kingdoms for reasons that may become clear. Alfred was born in approximately 849 CE, approximately because not all records have survived.
I mean, that was quite a while ago.
It was a while ago, yes. It was over 1,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Around this time, you had the king, or Kuning, who was the leader, then the aldermen, who we would call earls today, and then the thanes, who were the lesser nobles. The church also had a massive influence and could be as powerful, if not more so, than the thanes. The idea of heaven and hell were incredibly real and visceral to people at this time, and that gave the church a lot of power that would only continue to grow over the coming centuries. At the bottom of the ladder were the churls, who were the free peasants, and then the thralls, who were the slaves, which is where we get the idea of becoming enthralled. You are enthralled to somebody, you are their thrall, you are their slave.
Oh, I like that. So another little random fact for you there. The land was divided into administrative units known as hundreds or shires, with law enforced by a shire reeve, which is where we get sheriff. Shire reeve, sheriff.
Okay.
The Witan was the royal council and was made up of higher-ranking clergy, aldermen, and the most important thanes, and were responsible for advising the king on law and major decisions, but also approved and affirmed the succession. Not quite in a vote like we do today, more that they could veto someone if they felt they needed to. Until how we know it now, the throne was not always passed down from father to son. Sometimes, if the son was deemed unworthy by the Witan, then another member of the royal family, or even a worthy alderman, could be voted by the Witan to the throne.
I think they preferred to do that as the exception rather than the rule, but it was an option.
Yeah.
It was there. Whilst there had been rumblings of danger before this point, June 793 CE is often marked as the dawning of a new threat in Britain. The Vikings. Dun dun dun! Epic moment.
It needed that.
I felt it did. I'm glad you agree. A raid on the small monastery island of Lindisfarne off the east coast of Northumbria sent shockwaves through the religious kingdoms. Soon, raiding began in earnest. We've covered these events as well in Strange Ways to Die in the Dark Ages, as well as our episode, There's Norse to Them that meets the eye.
It always makes me chuckle when I reread what we've named some of our episodes. We think we're funny.
Yeah.
And if you don't think we're funny, you might like our books. Anyway, some kingdoms, such as East Anglia, big up East Anglia, it's where I'm from, it's where you now live.
Yep. It's where we're recording this podcast.
Absolutely. It fell relatively early, however, around 869 CE.
Big it up, there it fell.
Following the arrival of the Great Heathen Army, though not without valiant resistance to us.
Yep.
The Vikings had some advantages. They spoke a language similar to Old English, so there was some communication with the locals. They were often skilled farmers and sometimes employed as mercenaries. There was also an uncanny element where their gods, Odin, Thor, Thea, Frigga, and Freya, mirrored the old Anglo-Saxon pantheon. Chroniclers even joked about the biological similarities, and, according to later complaints, how Viking men were apparently better groomed than Anglo-Saxon men who hadn't bathed since the previous midsummer. I mean, it is well known that Vikings very much looked after their health and their appearance.
Oh yeah, we found a lot of combs, especially like bone combs, and they used to bathe and everything. It was they were very
ear spoons to get the wax out.
Yes, you had good old Eric or Ragnar, who was beautifully groomed like a L'Oreal, ye olde L'Oreal advert, and then you had Wulfric, who probably hadn't bathed since he was 5, and he's now 40. Yeah,
he gone stank.
Probably ripe, yeah. It was into a land already under threat and in prolonged conflict that Alfred was born in around 849 CE at Wantage in the Kingdom of Wessex. He was the youngest of 5 sons of Ethelwulf and Osber. Names had meanings at the time, often reflecting status or hopes for the child. So Alfred's father, Ethelwulf, meant Prince Wolf. Ethel being part of Atheling or Prince, and Wolf meaning, wolf. A nickname, as he would lead military campaigns against invading Danes.
Alfred's 4 oldest brothers were... Why have you done this to me? You've given me bullet points of names, and it is known on this podcast that I cannot pronounce stuff. So I'm just going to read in between.
All right,
cool. Alfred's 4 older brothers were...
Athelstan.
Though some debate whether he was Alfred's brother or uncle. Brother is more widely an accepted interpretation.
Ethelbald, Ethelbert, and Ethelred.
Because of this constant threat from Vikings, all the children were raised with military training alongside education in their region and governance. Alfred, though unlikely to inherit the throne initially, received the same education, a decision that would later prove very prudent.
From contemporary records, Alfred was a keen and insightful student, though some stories may have been amplified for later propaganda, admittedly. For example, the monk Asa, who compiled one version of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, reported that Queen Osber, his mother, Alfred's mother, not Asa's mother, promised a beautifully illustrated book of poetry to the first of her sons who could memorise it. Alfred won, which highlighted the intellectual strengths he would carry into adulthood.
Alfred's oldest brother, Athelstan,
well done,
was King of Kent, Surrey, Essex and Sussex at the time of Alfred's birth. with their father as overlord. Ethelstan is even credited by historian Frank Stainton with possibly leading the first recorded naval battle in English history off the coast of Sandwich in Kent, like the Earl of, in which he was victorious. Sadly, his name disappears from the historical records after circa 851 CE, and he is not mentioned in later Regency agreements when Ethelwulf travelled to continental Europe. We can therefore conclude with some safety that he is likely to have died around 852, bringing Alfred one step closer to his destiny.
In 853 CE, at around 4 or 5 years old,
Still a
baba, Alfred travelled to Rome, where he was blessed by the then Pope Leo IV. He returned again to Rome in 855 with his father following the death of his mother Osburh. On the way home, Ethelwulf married Judith of Flanders, the daughter of Charles the Bald. Judith's family influence later saw Alfred sent across the Channel, at that time called the South Sea or the Gallic Strait, which we now know as the English Channel, to the Frankish courts. There he absorbed continental culture and education, gaining a grounding in diplomacy, literacy and courtly etiquette.
Upon returning in 856 CE, Alfred and his father found that his next eldest brother, Ethelbald, unfortunate name, was he bald-headed?
I don't know, because bald sometimes, like an older version of bald also means white. So it could be the White Prince, or like the Fair Prince.
Yeah, fair. He had been left in charge during Ethelwulf's pilgrimage and continental visit. He refused to cede control of Wessex. Rather than risk a civil war while facing Viking threats, Ethelwulf agreed to remain ruler of Kent and nearby territories, leaving Ethelbald as king of Wessex. Ethelwulf held Kent until his death in 558 CE, at which point Ethelbert became king, uniting Wessex and Kent once again.
Yeah, so Ethelbald, like, Dad was away. You know what? I'm going to be king. I'm going to do it.
Not give it back. This is mine now. No, thank you. This is mine.
Around 860 to 861 CE, Ethelbald died. The cause is not recorded, but it is a safe bet it was probably from natural causes, as no battle or foul play is mentioned in what records have survived. So unless it's like properly mentioned as to what it was, assume natural causes.
Yeah, they're not fun to write about.
No.
Oh, this died dude with an axe to his brain. Oh, this guy fell asleep and just died.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not exactly an axe in the brain.
Yeah, still tragic, but not epic.
Oh, yes.
With the Wittens' approval, Ethelbert succeeded to the throne of Wessex. Alfred was now an orphan because both his mother and father were deceased, and with 2 older brothers gone, he was around 11 to 12 years old at this point. So because of all this, he began serious military training, which was pretty well timed as the Viking raids along the coast were intensifying.
In 865 CE, the Great Heathen Army landed on England's east coast, invading Northumbria and East Anglia. That same year, Ethelbert died, likely again of natural causes, leaving the throne to Alfred's 4th brother, Ethelred, meaning princely wisdom, just as the Viking threat escalated dramatically.
At this point, Alfred begins appearing in military records, supporting his brother Ethelred and leading troops to defend Wessex. Oh, by the way, Ethelred means princely wisdom. Alfred, because he's not an Ethel, because he was the last one. It was like, prince, we don't necessarily need it. It means elf wisdom. Oh, Alf means elf. As in, like, pointy-eared elves.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
I enjoy that.
So, he actually started supporting his brother by leading troops to defend Wessex. By 871 CE, the Vikings had established bases in neighbouring Mercia, giving them a strategic platform to pressure Wessex, the last independent Anglo-Saxon kingdom in southern England.
Even before he became king, Alfred was gaining experience in battle. Chroniclers record that during one engagement, Ethelred retreated to attempt to prey, leaving Alfred on the field to rally the troops, give orders, and keeping the army from breaking. This story highlights Alfred's early reputation for courage, intelligence, and leadership under pressure, skills that would serve him very well when he eventually became king.
When I hear that story, I get the mental image, like Alfred's out there and he's in the middle of battle, and he keeps going back to his brother's tent. He's like, "You come in? No, still praying. Okay, yeah, I got this. It's cool. Don't rush yourself. Oh no, yep, still praying.
Yep. You understand? He heard all your words? No, okay, I'll be back in a bit.
It's like, oh, he's making the sun, and oh no, he's moving into another prayer.
Amazing.
Yep. No, don't.
Halfway through the beads.
Don't you stress yourself. We got this. It's fine. He finally emerges and the battle's over. It's like, yep, this is totally your glory.
Yep, he'll emerge and be like, the battle is over. because God listened to my prayers, as you know, Alfred's there, like blood dripping down his face, sweating, broken like sword.
Yep.
Yeah, it was those words that saved her.
God, totally. By 871, Wessex faced nearly constant attacks. Battles were fought at Reading, Ashdown, Basing, and Meryton. Alfred's skills and leadership were crucial in holding the kingdom together. When Ethelred finally died, Alfred ascended the throne in the midst of one of England's most perilous periods.
After a string of defeats, Alfred found himself on the run. By 878 CE, he was hiding in the marshes of Athelney in Somerset. The story of the burnt cakes comes from this time, supposedly. While Alfred was staying in a peasant woman's home, he sat by the fire, lost in thought, and allowed some cakes to burn. When the woman scolded him, he is said to have remarked that his mind were elsewhere, planning how to save Wessex. The tale has become legendary, a small but humanising glimpse of the man who would go on to become one of England's greatest kings.
Yeah, it was most likely to be a myth.
But even if it is a myth, right, like you said, most likely is, that's so random. Who's like, well, we've got this man, we can make up shit about him, right?
Yeah.
So let's make up that he let some cakes just burn. Yeah, because he was sat by a fire thinking, doesn't matter that we can make up that he beat this, 10-foot wild boar or something. No, he let some cakes burn.
I think the whole idea of it was, his mind was so focused on what he was doing that he didn't notice, the plight of the common man. Just the idea of this mighty warrior king of England getting scolded by this housewife, what you doing? What you doing? Get your head out your butt and focus on my cake, boy.
Get your head to gate.
Do that High School Musical, Alfred the Great.
Oh, you don't.
Dishonour on you.
No.
Dishonour on your cow.
Dishonour on my cakes.
Dishonour on your cakes, yeah. During this time in the marshes, Alfred gathered loyal supporters and quietly built an army ready to strike back. Despite the apparent humiliation, this period actually became a turning point, showing Alfred's resilience, cunning, and ability to inspire loyalty, even in desperate times. He was known as a king, not a baker.
Clearly. Once Alfred had regrouped, he led his forces to the victory at the Battle of Ellington. It was a decisive moment. The invading Danish leader Guthrum was defeated. He was forced to convert to Christianity and agreed to withdraw to the Danelaw, where the Vikings would rule and define portions of England.
That was where Alfred was really, really clever, because he basically accepted Guthrum's surrender, but said, I will accept it and I will let you go and live in peace as the king of East Anglia. But you have to convert to Christianity, and to make sure that you do it, I will be your godfather. So he baptised him, named him Athelstan, and then sent him to be king of East Anglia. And because he was both Christian and his godson, he now owed double allegiance to Alfred.
That's very clever.
Very, very clever. And then that meant he had power over East Anglia.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a great line in the Bernard Cornwell TV show based on the books for The Last Kingdom, where they talk about Alfred, and the line is, pardon my French, the bastard thinks. And I love it. I think we reference that later. It's brilliant. He thinks. So Alfred did not just rely on luck or battlefield heroics, however. He implemented significant military and administrative reforms. He strengthened the Fyrd, which was a local militia, and built a network of burhs, or fortified towns, to defeat against the future attacks. He also developed a small naval force, laying the foundations for what would later become England's future seafaring defence. These innovations, along with his ability to unite his people, helped preserve Wessex at the time when much of England had fallen to the Vikings.
So, as you said, the line, the bastard thinks, Alfred's brilliance was not just limited to war. He was deeply invested in education and governance. He commissioned translations of important Latin texts into Old English so that his people could read them. He reformed laws, ensuring justice was more consistent and accessible. He invited scholars from continental Europe to his court and encouraged learning among the clergy and the nobility. In short, Alfred sought to strengthen not only the kingdom's defences, but also its mind and culture, leaving a legacy of learning that would endure long after his death. Random fact.
Mhm.
Alfred even wrote what we might now call a self-help guide for rulers, explaining the responsibilities and virtues of kingship, one of the earliest examples in England.
And do you want to know something really, really interesting?
Always.
He did this while suffering from a debilitating physical illness, which is believed, widely accepted to be Crohn's disease.
Oh,
So all this time, Alfred had Crohn's disease.
Christ.
So the fact that he did all this whilst in near constant agony.
Wow.
Alfred continued to defend Wessex, consolidate power, and expand his influence until his death on the 26th of October 899 CE at Winchester. He was succeeded by his son, Edward the Elder, who would continue the work of uniting England. Alfred's reign is remembered not just for his military victories, but for his vision, intellect, and dedication to his people.
Even today, he is celebrated as the archetypal, wise and just ruler, the king who defended the kingdom, promoted learning, and laid the foundations for a unified England. Though he sadly never lived to see it, he has left one heck of a legacy.
Unfortunately, so there was a big resurgence in passion and study around Alfred the Great during the Victorian era, and that's believed where he picked up the moniker the Great. But it was this idea of what it meant to be British, to be English, to be a descendant of Alfred the Great. Unfortunately, that did lend itself to white supremacists and British supremacists.
Mm.
So they tainted that a little bit. But looking at just the man himself, I mean, I kind of get why he would be called Alfred the Great. He was pretty impressive. He's widely credited. So we said about busting myths. He is widely credited as the father of the modern navy. He's not. He's the father of a naval idea that then became the navy. He's also not the first king of England. It was his grandson, I think, Ethelstan, that was the first king of a united England. But Alfred set the stage for that, and his kids and grandkids kept that running.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's Alfred the Great. Did you learn anything?
I learned lots. I always do.
I learned lots too. This man just fascinates me, but genuinely, there are some fantastic ideas about him out there, and I really do recommend The Last Kingdom and, to a lesser extent, but still it's cool, Vikings.
Yeah.
Just to build up around Alfred. But yeah, there's lots of good books, including ours. We do talk about him in ours. So Strange Ways to Die in the Dark Ages, but also David Mitchell's Unruly.
Yes.
That is funny.
You really like that book.
I do like that book, but he's very liberal with the F word and the C word, which is surprising for a history book.
Well, so you say that, it shouldn't be though, because those words were just said they weren't actually technically swear words for a while.
They weren't.
They were just in normal vernacular.
Yeah, the C word was it was from Latin, I think. It was a Latin derivative.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Alfred the Great. From now for our segment, Ridiculous Deaths. Who have you got for us today, dude?
Today I have Philip of France. A little bit later than Alfred, because he lived between 1116 to 1131. And not to be confused with Philip I of France. Completely different Philip, but both from France. So, Philip was actually a co-king, which means he was ruling at the same time as someone else.
Of the same country?
Yep, in the same country.
That can be a thing.
Yeah, so he was ruling alongside his father, who was Louis VI of France. So what you do is, during this time, it was quite common, you'd have a young king or a co-king who you would basically crown as king, and they would have sort of devolved rights, and they would still be a king. They could then rule as regent in your absence, and then when you died, they were there ready to take over.
That's really clever.
It is. I think Henry II did it with his son Henry the Young King, but then Henry the Young King died. But that is a matter for another podcast. That one is tangly. Philip was actually out riding one day on the banks of the River Seine in Paris, and along the strand named the Grève. Whilst he was there, his horse was running along, and all of a sudden, a black pig darted out of a dung heap on the quay, which tripped his horse. The horse fell forward, the young king was catapulted over his head, and basically fell on the floor and fractured himself to death. From a pig in a dung heap.
Wow. Is this...
Actually, there was no warning whatsoever. He was riding along, trotting along in his, happy, eat, pig, donkey, dead.
Jeez, at least he wouldn't know. But I always find it so like
he would have seen, horse's mane, sky, ground, dead. So he was pretty aware that something was happening.
If you're dying, you don't see dead.
I don't know. I've never done it. I just knew you made you choke on your one. There was a spit take.
Oh my god! Not prepared. Was not prepared.
Yes.
Jesus.
If you are out taking a stroll on your wee pony along the banks of the Seine, watch out for dung heaps concealing deadly pigs.
Wow.
Also, nobody said what happened to the horse or the pig.
What happened to the horse and the pig?
I mean, the pig was probably served up at its funeral feast, let's be honest.
I mean, bacon.
Yeah. Bacon.
And thus ends this podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here at A Nice Cup of History Tea. We shall be back next week with our first dark cup of history tea in a while. Thank you for joining us. Yes, I know this is the second podcast within 2 weeks. We are keeping up. We said we were back.
Yeah, we're starting because we mean on.
Yes.
Let's just keep the momentum going.
Absolutely. So, yes, any ideas for future episodes, get in touch on all our socials. We're A Nice Cup of History, or email us at cupofhistory@outlook.com. Also, check us out at all of our other socials with the E&C Curiosities, where you'll find info about everything we're up to, because we're actually doing quite a lot now with the book series, with the podcast, with the pantomime scripts. So
it's all gone a bit crazy.
It has done. I mean, I know we've not been around, but there's been reasons for us not being.
Yes, we haven't. We've been absent. We haven't been idle.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and you have a baby.
I do still have a baby.
You have baby.
I do have baby.
Like, we were creating books and pantos and a human being.
I mean,
you were creating the human being. I just shouted encouragement from during the pregnancy, not before. I'm going to sit up now.
Bye.